Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former President Donald Trump held events in the battleground state of New Hampshire yesterday. Trump addressed the classified documents probe while DeSantis criticized so-called woke activism. So joining me now from New Hampshire for more on this is CBS News politics reporter Zak Hudak. Hey, Zak, it's good to see you. We were talking yesterday about what this was going to look like and how inevitably people were going to compare the sizes, the enthusiasm of the two dueling crowds, if you will. But what I want to ask you about before I even get to that is, did the former president address this new audio recording of him allegedly bragging about having classified documents at his golf club in New Jersey?
Anne-Marie, he did not address that question to the crowd at the Lilac Luncheon. It's a group of Republican women, a fundraising dinner, lunch that they host here. He did not address that issue. He treated it much more like a campaign rally where he was talking about how Ron DeSantis, like you said, had a much smaller crowd size and talking about how he's needed to become president again. He did, however, address that issue in a pull aside with Fox News, where he said it was no issue and just another witch hunt, in essence. He said those were not classified documents, despite what he said on the tape. I think that we're all going to have to wait and see what happens in court because, he said a number of different things, and it's hard to sort of figure out what's the truth. He's maintained a firm lead, though, on the nomination amongst potential voters. They still like him, GOP voters. Other GOP candidates have certainly ramped up their attacks. Can you sort of recap some of the criticism? Yeah, Ron DeSantis has been painting President Trump as someone who did not meet his promises, did not drain the swamp is the language he's using. He's saying that you need me to come finish the job that Donald Trump said that he would start in 2016 and never completed. And that really, for Ron DeSantis and a lot of his supporters, is a line that is hitting at the culture wars. He's saying, look, President Trump made all of these promises, but he was not hardline enough. The response from the Trump campaign is, of course, going to be, well, look at the Supreme Court. Look at the results there. But while this is all happening, Nikki Haley has been going from event to event, talking about how Donald Trump was soft on China and actually showed moral weakness with his embrace of China. And that's a whole other angle that he's being attacked on, and a whole other angle that he needs to defend on as tensions heighten with China.
I want to ask you about something that Kevin McCarthy said. Speaker Kevin McCarthy said on CNBC. He said that he doesn't know if Trump is the strongest Republican candidate for president. Is that a surprising turn for the House Speaker? He's been, I would say, quite supportive of the former president.
It's surprising, particularly in light of the speaker battle that Speaker McCarthy had to undergo, the election that the House holds to elect the leader of the House. That happened earlier this year, and in order to get through, there were vote after vote where McCarthy did not meet the threshold. It required former President Trump to call up a number of the far-right members of the House GOP and encourage them to vote for McCarthy. After he won that election, he actually walked off the House floor. I was there, and he gave a press conference specifically to thank President Trump. So it is a major departure from that, but I would just stress that it's a fine line that Kevin McCarthy's having to walk the way that his caucus is split. He does have a lot of Trump loyalists he has to keep happy, but he needs to stay open to someone else getting the nomination because he will have to work with them if they are president.
Zak, thank you very much.